Today on Locked On Rockies, the first overall pick in the 2025 draft is in play for the Rockies. They obviously need to win it in the lottery, but if they do, does it really mean anything?
You are Locked On Rockies, your daily Colorado Rockies podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Rock on Rockies fans, welcome into the Locked On Rockies podcast for today, the 8th day of November in the year 2024. I'm your host of the Locked On Rockies podcast, Paul Holden, bringing you your daily Colorado Rockies talk right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, where you can find your team every day. And if your team is the Colorado Rockies, guess what? You're in the right spot, because that's what we do around here each and every day, free and streaming on your favorite streaming services and on the Locked On Rockies YouTube channel, where you can be part of the show. You can fire off your Rockies hot takes. You can let me know what's on your mind, just like RMK. I am a little saddened by Montero leaving, but in my opinion, it's better to move on from players you don't feel like are a good fit than to hold on to as much as you can because you traded Arenado to get them. That's in response to our minor league free agent class episode that aired yesterday, where Elehuris Montero is one of those free agents, and I was discussing basically how not sure what the path is there, and just how it just kind of leaves a tough taste in your mouth there. That's how it all panned out with Montero and how everything is panned out in the post Arenado deal. But you are right. Again, if the performance isn't there, why hang on to him? I just kind of felt like Montero could have been an interesting trade piece for some people. The minor league numbers, I think, were enough, even in the hitter-friendly environments, that I figured a team might be interested in him and might be able to say, hey, we can get you a little more consistent without the variables of altitude, maybe. But again, I'm still trying to figure out just exactly how big of a deal altitude is and managing that. And it certainly has been told to us it's a huge deal. We've certainly seen examples of it and all that stuff. I just wonder how much of a risk then is it for players that have played in Albuquerque, have played in the PCL. You know, what does that mean for them there in terms of their trade value and their path to the playoffs as well? So thank you for that comment. Remember, you can be part of the show. Your Rockies talks, your Rockies conversation, your Rockies thoughts. Let me know on the Locked On Rockies YouTube channel and on the Locked On Rockies Twitter page there. You can let me know what's on your mind. We're going to talk about the first overall pick in the draft today. It is in play for the Rockies. And I don't want to poo-poo an exciting moment, but just drafting a player very high isn't enough. And the Rockies have proven this time and time again anyway. I'll talk about that and more here coming up. And I wanted to read from a early ESPN power rankings where, surprise, the Rockies do not have a lot of kind words said about them here from ESPN. And I asked the question, are the Rockies worse than these other teams? Do you truly believe that the Rockies are worse than these other teams? We're going to dive into all that and more today. Before we do, today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. You can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet, and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. So, number one overall pick in the draft for the Rockies here. So, there's a lot of options. The Rockies have a 22.45% chance to get the first overall pick. Marlins also tied, 22.45. Angels, 17.96. Nationals, 10.2. Blue Jays, 7.48. So, the numbers looking pretty good. Interesting. The White Sox and the A's are ineligible for a lottery pick. I did not know that. I wonder why that is. Anyway, so say the Rockies do get the number one overall pick. There are some really interesting options. Jace Laviolette, I think, the outfielder from Texas A&M. Let's see, according to MLB.com, he possesses solid speed and arm strength, comes with impressive walk rates, 19% as a sophomore, but concerning strikeout rates, 24%, and hit 305, 449, 726 with 29 homers, top among returning NCAA Division I players, while leading Texas A&M to the Men's College World Series Finals in the spring. If he goes number 1 overall, he'd be the first 4-year outfielder to do so since Darren Erstad in 1995. Cam Canarella, an outfielder from Clemson. Tyler Bremner from pitcher from UC Santa Barbara. Jamie Arnold, a pitcher from Florida State. And of course, if you really want to go into it, of course, Ethan Holiday. I don't know why Ethan Holiday is not on that list there from MLB. But because I figured that I thought he was, I guess it might not be for certain that he is going to the draft this year. I'm not sure. But no matter who the Rockies get, and again, we have some examples, but it's you get a number 1 overall pick. You have this crop of young guys coming up. It will matter. It matters in the sense that you're adding a player with a really high ceiling potential. You're adding a player that is agreed upon by baseball minds, is very good and has a good chance at being successful in the major leagues. I just still am not overly confident in the development abilities of the Colorado Rockies. And that, honestly, that kind of goes to what this ESPN way too early power rankings mentions here. They have the Rockies ranked at 29 out of 30, the second worst team in baseball behind only the Chicago White Sox. And here's what ESPN says. Inertia, a tendency to do nothing or to remain unchanged. Welcome to the 2019 to 2024 Colorado Rockies. For example, Bud Black returns for another season as manager despite 6 straight losing seasons of not even finishing close to 500. And the past 2 seasons were even worse than the first 4. Is it his fault? No. But would most organizations make a change? Of course. The Rockies rarely make trades or invest in free agents, and when they have, it was with bad deals to Chris Bryant and Ian Desmond. They continue to believe solely in their player development system, and there's nothing wrong with that, except they simply haven't excelled at developing players. That's the kicker right there. I mean, there's an argument for all this other stuff for, are the Rockies really worse off than the Angels or the Marlins or the A's? Are they really? I still think, I don't think they've jumped out of that category. But when the narrative about you on the grand scheme of things, and or not the grand scheme of things, when the narrative about you throughout the rest of the league continues to just be a poorly run organization that doesn't know what they're doing, and I mean that is what the perception is. That is what people say. That is what people believe. I mean, even just, again, listen to that piece there. The team doesn't make changes. The team hasn't thrived at developing players. There's a couple of examples you can look at that, but just by drafting a number 1 overall pick does not make me think that it's going to end up, landing in the, helping this team, reach that next level. And when I'm looking at the Rockies' first round picks here, I'm only seeing a handful of these names that stick out to me. I'm sure certainly like some of these guys could have had longer careers and whatnot. But I don't think the Rockies have necessarily a strong track record of success in developing their high draft picks. It hasn't always worked out. I mean, there's definitely examples to the contrary. Todd Helton, Troy Tulowitzki, Ian Stewart was good, Greg Reynolds, Tyler Matzik, Trevor Story. But then there's the David Dahls. There's the Brendan Rodgers, the Riley Pints, the Benny Montgomerys, perhaps. I mean, there are multiple more examples, I think, for the Rockies where you don't just sit here and be like, nice. I know that the Rockies got this guy, therefore it's going to be a surefire thing. You can definitely be really excited about these young arms. You can be excited about, Condon and Beck as well, the recent picks Condon was the last first-round pick for the Rockies. Dollander was the first-round pick for the Rockies in 2023, going 9th overall. But my point is, there's still a lot of these names on this list that have come and gone. There's a lot of names on this list of players that probably are seeing, with an argument of seeing their most success not with the Rockies. So just by getting the number 1 overall pick doesn't mean that I'm necessarily completely convinced that they're on track with development. However, that could change depending on how next year goes and through the season and into 2026 as well. And I'll explain why coming up next. Before we do that, though, got to tell you about the folks that help make this show possible, and that includes Ibotta. Going to be doing a lot of buying of things in this holiday season. If you love the holidays but hate the grocery shopping, Ibotta is making your Thanksgiving easier with cash back on everything you need to make your perfect holiday meal. So you can get the turkey and your favorite sides for free. This month, Ibotta is giving new users 100% cash back on your Thanksgiving feast. Just add the offers in the app to redeem for everything you need to make your Thanksgiving feast complete. All you have to do is shop at your favorite retailers and upload your receipt. Ibotta gives you cash back on hundreds of grocery items, from produce to personal care to pantry goods, so you can get everything you need for the holidays. You can also earn cash back on hundreds of online brands and retailers too when you start with Ibotta, including Lowe's, Macy's, Sephora, Best Buy, and more. Download the Ibotta app now and use code LOCKEDONMLB to get 100% cash back on your Thanksgiving feast starting November 1st. Just go to the App Store or Google Play Store and download the free Ibotta app and use code LOCKEDONMLB. That's code LOCKEDONMLB, and that's IBOTTA in the Google Play or App Store, and use code LOCKEDONMLB. We're also brought to you by FanDuel. FanDuel is America's #1 sportsbook, and you can get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get 150 in bonus bets if you win. Yes, 150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch to make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. And remember to please play responsibly. This is the Locked On Rockies podcast for free and streaming on your favorite streaming services, bringing you your daily Colorado Rockies talk right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, where you can find your team every day. Be part of the show. Fire off your Rockies hot takes over there on the Locked On Rockies YouTube channel. Let me know what's on your mind. And hey, for your second listen of the day, go check out Locked On MLB with our guy Sully. So I'm curious to you Rockies fans out there, if the Rockies do get the #1 overall pick, will you be excited? I mean, it's obviously, I think, really cool because it hasn't happened before. And, the floor opens up. Would it be great to have the next Holiday brother? Sure, but he's also shortstop. So, that's a little weird. Baseball and drafting is just such an interesting thing. It's so weird because of the time it takes to get to the major league level and all the variables and the factors that can go there. And I got to give the Rockies some credit here. Let's just go through the list of good players, but again, mixed with the context of how many of these, which some examples are great with the Rockies, and others were, they were better elsewhere. Todd Helton, of course, there for the Rockies. Jeff Francis there. He was ended up having a long career. Ian Stewart, Troy Tulowitzki. I mentioned there Greg Reynolds. He, none of these players are necessarily going to, I shouldn't say none of them. I'm sorry. Not all of them. Tyler Matzik there. Did Rex Brothers end up having no? Look, yeah, he was. It didn't play long, but Tyler Anderson, Trevor Story, John Gray, Kyle Freeland, and again, we focus up here a little bit closer to the recent picks, and this could be where things start coming together. Michael Toglia, of course, now the 2019 23rd overall pick in the mix. What does 2025 look like for Benny Montgomery and Zach Veen, who have continued to throw some interesting options, have shown some interesting things, but injury and XYZ continues to get in the way. And then, of course, Chase Dollander, I mean, could really truly be a game changer for the Rockies, and same with the next Charlie, coming through there. So it's great that the Rockies are in this, that they are building up these higher draft picks, but it's also reflective of where they've been the last few seasons, and it just goes to show you it's not as certain as just, hey, let's just draft them and then they're good. It's going to take a lot. It's going to take moments for people to grow and develop. And while I think I can sit here and say that I think that the Rockies are on a good path with the development of some of these guys, I still don't know. I'm still not certain that this team has to change a lot of minds, and it's not just Rockies fans' mind. It's the national narrative mind, like we were talking about with that ESPN thing, literally criticizing their inability to develop players. But if the Rockies can develop this next crop of players, if the Rockies can get the performances that they're hoping from, and if they can help these guys get to where they want to go, the Rockies can become a young team with a lot of interesting higher level draft picks on it sooner rather than later. When you're talking about a future lineup with the Rockies here, and not all of these outfielders are going to make it because Brenton Doyle's there, but you have a 3rd overall pick coming. You have a 9th overall pick coming. Veen and Montgomery both were 8 and 9 there. Michael Toglia, 23. You have top 25 players, entering your team sooner rather than later. But what do they look like at that major league level? Is there enough opportunity? Because when you look at the Rockies, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 out of their last 7 first round picks are all outfielders. All outfielders. There's not enough room for all those players, especially if you're already going to be committing to Brenton Doyle and Nolan Jones. Beck's on this list as, the outfielders that are listed here: Zach Veen, Benny Montgomery, Jordan Beck, Sterling Thompson, Charlie Condon. I feel like I keep messing up his last name, isn't it? It's not that. Maybe I'm wrong there. But are you going to be able to develop all of those guys to be able to be effective? Or is the path of these players changing a little bit because of the emergence of Brenton Doyle, because of the trade to get Nolan Jones? Why have we seen, Thompson and Beck before we've seen Veen and Montgomery? I think injury is really the big explanation there, personally. But the point is, yes, it's exciting if they get the first pick. It opens the door. Yes, I'm excited if the Rockies could add a Holiday. Yes, but the next best pick is adding another outfielder. The next, is adding another outfielder who's got a strikeout problem. Are we confident that the Rockies can take that outfielder and fix their strikeout problem and get them to be the number 1 overall pick? It's a lot of pressure. I mean, this is the number 1 overall pick. For a lot of teams, that number 1 overall pick has literally changed the franchise or changed the entire landscapes. And the Bryce Harpers of the world, While I think the Rockies could continue to build another core of young guys coming through, and they have a bunch of first round picks that they're gonna have to figure out what's going on with sooner rather than later. I still just am holding my breath that this team is going to be able to fully develop and help these players reach their potential. And I hope that changes next year. I hope my mindset about that changes next year as we go through and see what does year 3 look like for some young guys for the Rockies? What does year 2 look like for some young guys? And who's going to start making the field? Who's going to make up this outfield? Because again, as we talked about adding free agents, right? We've talked a lot about adding free agents in the outfield. And look at that again. 5 of the last 7 first-round draft picks for the Rockies are outfielders. And last I checked, there's only 3 outfield positions. So who's going to get the playing time? Who's going to get the opportunity? And how quickly are the Rockies going to? I mean, because if you have all these outfielders, you only have so much time to commit to these guys. But I think when I see how many outfielders the Rockies need to figure out what they have with is, it cements my idea, my thought that right field should be left completely open and should be used for people to get playing time. It should be used because I do believe that sticking with Nolan Jones and seeing what happens with giving him another opportunity, letting him try to carry that momentum from later in the season and try to be that impact guy that we saw that first year makes the most sense. And of course, you have Brenton Doyle in center field. So your options already to get these 5 first round picks in the outfield onto the field is now down to 1 position, and has been. That's why last year it was so frustrating to watch Jake Cave play so much. Jake Cave has no more impact on the team. The Jake Cave experience is already over and done with. But and I understand the injuries that happened to the young guys. I know I know the Rockies were going young in the beginning of the season. I get that. But the point remains. The Rockies need to get these high-level draft picks playing time. And they already struggle enough with doing that. So, first overall pick would be great. I would love to have any player the Rockies are hoping for. But can they get them to the major league level? And can they get them to be at the major, not just get to the major league level, but be effective and be good, great, impactful? That's another question. All right. Want to take a look at Bud Black's message to season ticket holders, as well as just, again, I'm just curious, if I ask the question, do you think the Rockies are worse than these teams? I want to know. We're going to do that coming up in segment number 3. Before we do that, though, got to tell you about the folks that help make this show possible, and that includes Robinhood and Robinhood Gold. With Robinhood Gold, you don't need a silver spoon to eat up the financial favors of the 1%. Robinhood Gold allows others to get the rates and perks usually reserved for the high society. Now, the resourceful individual with Robinhood Gold can earn the very liberal rate of 4.5% APY on uninvested cash and be rewarded with a handsome 3% retirement boost on an IRA account. Robinhood Gold provides the privileges of a high net worth for any net worth. These generous benefits are now available for only $5 a month. The new gold standard is here with Robinhood Gold. Sign up at Robinhood.com/gold. Terms apply. For product-specific disclosures, visit Robinhood.com/gold. Investing involves risk. Rate may change. Gold membership is offered by Robinhood Gold, LLC. This is the Locked On Rockies podcast for free and streaming on your favorite streaming services, bringing you your daily Colorado Rockies talk right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, where you can find your team every day. If your team is the Colorado Rockies, guess what? You're in the right spot. That's what we do around here. Free and streaming on your favorite streaming services. All right. So the Rockies were ranked 29th out of 30 teams. And I don't know. There is a really interesting argument to be made here, because I think I'm like, the Rockies, if they didn't blow it completely against the Marlins, they deserve to be at least higher there. But then again, what am I doing? Does it really matter if the Rockies are 26th in baseball and a little bit better than the Marlins and Angels and right there with the Athletics and trying to fight their way up to the Nationals level? No. honestly, and I hate to just poo-poo it there, but again, this is a team that needs. This is another example. Show me why you're not the second worst team in baseball. I'm not going to sit here and go to bat for you. The health of the rotation can help. The young bullpen hopefully will help. The continued development of young guys will help. But I'm not going to sit here and say that the Rockies are finding their way out of a bottom 5 team in baseball. The proof is most certainly not in the pudding for that. There could be a pathway to getting there, but I don't know. The Marlins will probably have dominant pitching again soon, especially when they get healthy. And you know, the Angels are a bit of a mess, but they still will have Mike Trout come back for 50 games next year. And then, you know, the A's continue to, I don't know, actually. The A's I'll put on worry mode because what they're going through is weird. What they're going to go through this offseason is weird. Those players are probably dealing with a lot of weirdness going on next year. We'll see what happens. And then the White Sox, I think, they're pretty far off. So and the GM and everything, like few teams, if any, are in a worse position than the Chicago White Sox. And I don't think there is a team worse, but like, I don't see to get up to the 24th ranked team here. So to get out of the bottom 5 teams in baseball, according to ESPN's way too early power rankings, which again, they're way too early. I understand that. You'd have to be playing at an 83-79 clip to surpass the St. Louis Cardinals there. The Reds have a worse record. Some of these teams have worse records, but are ranked higher. But it's, again, I'm seeing a lot of these teams, and I just not only do the Rockies play these teams, and we got to see what happens, but I kind of, you know, you could follow along. Like, even when things don't go well, these teams have 70 plus wins, 80 wins. And the Rockies are very far off from that. I think 70-ish win range is in the realm of possibilities for the Rockies, certainly. But I don't think there is a strong argument that the Rockies get to make any of these big jumps. I don't think the Rockies get to jump out of the bottom of the basement at all until midway through the season next year. To start off strong, to go through a schedule again that's going to test you early against competitive teams. Bud Black wrote to season ticket supporters yesterday, but I'm not going to read the whole thing here. But 2024 was another challenging year, but we're fully committed to putting a winning team on the field. You deserve it. Every one of us shares a relentless drive to build a team that embodies the spirit of Colorado and brings pride to our fans. I'm more confident about 2025 than I've been since our back-to-back playoff seasons in 17 and 18. We are building a roster you can be proud of, and I'm hopeful you will see our efforts pay off next season. Let's see. Talks about being excited about Tovar, Doyle, Tolia, Jones. Clearly, I think with Tolia being mentioned in this thing, first base, starter, boom. Not a big surprise, but I don't think that they're going to be wavering on that for the Chris Bryant experiment. Black also says, I'm equally excited about our pitching heading into 2025, both in the rotation and the bullpen. We're finally entering spring training with a fully healthy staff, and it's not a stretch to say we are deeper at starting pitcher than we have been in the past few years. It's actually true. Top prospects like Chase Dollander, Carson Palmquist, and Sean Sullivan are one step closer to Coors Field. Our bullpen is some of the most talented young arms I've ever managed. Okay. And I'm eager to see what they can achieve. I'm excited about the young bullpen too, but I'm just saying, you're throwing that thing in there to just kind of add a little fluff. That's a fluff line right there. Thank you again for your loyalty. I don't take for granted the privilege of managing a team in Colorado, and our goal remains clear: to bring you a championship. We're dedicated to making 2025 a season you won't forget. So there you go. Words from the manager. Confident in the team. And again, it kind of highlights the theme of this episode. There is a moment where the Rockies are going to be able to prove their skills and ability at player development. And 2025 is going to be a prime example of that. If you can keep the momentum going from the Tovar and the Doyle development into these other players like a Tolia development, I do believe he could be in store for a good step forward next year. The Rockies will turn some heads. But in order to do that, there's a lot of work ahead before that. Folks, that's going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Rockies. Thank you so much for making us your first listen of the day. For your second listen of the day, go check out Locked On MLB. Or if you need more Colorado sports coverage, Locked On Broncos, Locked On Avalanche, Locked On Nuggets, and Locked On Buffs, free and streaming on your favorite streaming services as well. You can fire off your Rockies hot takes. You can let me know what's on your mind by leaving a comment on the Locked On Rockies YouTube comment section. And remember, when you subscribe, when you like the videos, when you share, when you leave those 5-star reviews, you're really helping the show grow. Until next time, folks, this is Paul Holden saying so long from the Locked On Rockies podcast.